Has an agenda now, Mr. Luke.
Okay, hey Jim, can I have that one back that I gave you because I had written numbers?
I didn't get very far with it, tell you the truth.
Well, I had numbers.
Because I have mine.
No, I had the numbers written on it. I had handwritten in the numbers. Ah, there we go. All right, well, good afternoon. Hello, hello, hello. Nobody looks tired in this audience or that they've been working really hard the last few. No, not at all. Well, we are so glad to see lots of smiling faces this afternoon, and I appreciate you being here. Before we get our meeting started today, Dr. Rollins will lead us in an invocation, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll call our meeting to order. So.
Let's pray together. Dear God, we thank you for every blessing that you provide to each of us. We thank you for the opportunity that you've given to each of us to begin again, to begin a new school year, to meet our children and their families and to think and plan together about their futures. We thank you for our teachers and administrators, and we thank you for the members of the school board, and we thank you for every parent and patron who are partners with us in the education of our children. We ask that you continue to bless this work, and we all thank you for the privilege to serve. Amen.
Now, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I would like to go ahead and call our August board meeting to order. And board members, you've had the agenda for a few days. Dr. Rollins, are there any adjustments or modifications to our agenda this evening?
Mr. Little, I believe the agenda would stand as presented.
Okay, so we've got the agenda with no modifications. Do I have a motion to accept?
So move.
A motion from Ms. McFetridge.
Second.
A second from Mr. Owenby. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There is none, so motion carries. If we'll get and everybody kind of needs to bear with us. We're kind of short agendas in our computers up here today, but we are really quick on our feet, so we'll be able to get through this, I think, real well without that, but just bear with us if you need to along the way. Board members, you also have the minutes from our previous month's board meeting from July the 15th.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Have a motion from Mr. Hutchinson.
Second.
Second, was that you? Okay, second from Ms. Cook. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There is none. Okay. This is our part. Here we go. They're just showing up left and right. This is our portion of our meeting where we do open it up for patron comments. Really what we do ask is that you keep your comments brief. We're not able to act on them this evening. Please give us your name and your address, and then we'll take it from there. So I know we've got at least one, so why don't you come on forward and introduce yourselves to us.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Nelson. I reside at 7940 West Miller Road here in Springdale. My purpose here tonight is just kind of to make you aware and to reach out and see if we can work together and get some help maybe. I think some of you, but maybe not all, have heard about the I-3 rezoning effort next to Shaw Elementary School. Several city leaders support this, but many of the citizens do not. We've been working nonstop since it went to city council meeting and just trying to educate everyone. We wanted to make you aware and ask you how we can best reach the parents of Shaw and the schools that feed into Shaw, such as Hellstrom Middle School, HAR-BER High School, that's all right there in the area, because we think that all parents have a right to know what is going on and they should have a voice also. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have concerning this or our efforts in general. We have an email address set up that you could email questions, because I do have to step out after this, but our email address is springdaleneighbors@gmail.com. And we would love to work together on this.
Okay, well, I certainly appreciate you mentioning that to us. We are aware of the situation, and I know that in some of my conversations I've had with Dr. Rollins, we are certainly collecting information and gathering that as best we can. You know, we certainly understand that our role is to, you know, educate our children, keep our children safe, and that's our first priority. We also want to be good partners, and communications need to be open with whether we're City Hall or whether it's Chamber of Commerce or with our parents. And so, you know, we are aware that. I appreciate you sharing that email address with us, and feel free at any time to call Dr. Rollins or members of the staff to let them know that, so that that's information they can collect and distribute back to us as they see fit. So thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Any others in the audience? Okay, well, we'll begin with our the rest of our agenda. So, Dr. Rollins or Dr. Cleveland, even, I'm not sure how you're going to handle this part of it. So,
Well, we've got, Board, if you look at this first page and begin to enumerate, we've got about 15 plus new administrators in the district and or people serving in new positions. So I'm going to ask Dr. Cleveland to come forward if he would and introduce each of our new administrators. And guys, thank you all for all you do. We're all very, very proud of you, that's for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Rollins. Thank you, Board. We have, Dr. Rollins is absolutely right. We've got 15 new administrators and an administrative assistant, make number 16. If you would, members, as I call your name, please come forward, and we'll line up right up through here. I know we formally introduced a few of you, but we'd like to introduce you as an entire team for the FY15 year. Number 1, Mr. Clay Hendricks, the Associate Superintendent, who's taken the place of Dr. Marcia Jones. Dr. Megan Witonsky, Assistant Superintendent for Education Innovation. Dr. Tamika Brown, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction 8 through 12. Ms. Shannon Tisher, Southwest Junior High Principal. Mr. Paul Greep, the new Principal at Central Junior High School. Mr. Joe Rollins, the Principal of the iSchool. Dr. Kirk Freeman, the new Principal at Archer ALE. Ms. Rose Spalding, the new Assistant Principal at Archer ALE. Dr. Mark Olstery, the Assistant Principal at HAR-BER High School. Mr. Don Eichenberger, Assistant Principal at Springdale High. Mr. Bobby Cole, Assistant Principal of George Junior High School. Ms. Elizabeth Betsy Barker, Assistant Principal at George Junior High. Ms. Brandy Wolfenbarger, the Administrative Assistant for Pre-K. Ms. Carrie Brado, Assistant Principal at Walker Elementary. Ms. Tara Harshaw, Special Education Supervisor. And Ms. Melody Morgan, the Testing and Accountability Coordinator. We have a round of applause for our new team. Thank you very much.
well, I just want to say before you run off, we did get to see the resumes and the history of each individual that's before us, and it's impressive. I mean, we are very fortunate to have each of you that are here. We're blessed to have you here. Being a parent of kids that are in this school district, I can't think of any better hands to entrust them with than this group, and we're lucky to be here, and we're lucky to have you. So thanks for being here, and we understand if you need to go get work done the rest of this evening too. So thanks.
There we go.
Lord, I know you've heard me use this descriptor before, and hopefully we can all begin to use it over and over again and have a good understanding as to why it's appropriate. The Springdale School District is growing in prominence at the local, state, and national level. Springdale kids are leading the way. Item B on the agenda tonight, I'm going to ask Dr. Stuman to come along with Josh and others and explain to us some of the latest ventures of our Sonora Elementary Leadership Team. What a classic example these young ladies are.
They are. And we gave them the night off. I think they're pretty worn out from all their presentations. Yes, so, yeah. They're very
You mean
active.
they're being
young ladies.
10-year-olds?
We're-
They're being 10-year-olds?
Yeah, and you know, they got to do some of their gymnastics on the stage too, but I think you all had the opportunity to see the video, and probably, I think, like within 24 hours of the event. I wish, and I was talking to Josh about this, I had words to express that trip, the emotions that went through. It was just phenomenal. And Esri, Charlie Fitzpatrick, I wish he were here close where we could have him hear Dr. Rollins and give him a friend of Springdale. The way he was gracious, took care of us. It was myself, Mr. Worthy, one of the parents, Ricky's mom, and both the girls, and then my oldest daughter went. We put her to work too. Actually, we needed her with the energy level with the girls every once in a while. We flew down and started off in Redlands, California. On the Esri campus, which is phenomenal in and of itself. The girls were surrounded in this business atmosphere, but to see the collaboration that went on all day long on this campus, how the campus was even set up for this, that being explained and discussed to the girls, for them to go in and see the offices of people who were doing this work, the same work that they're getting ready to present at this international conference, and then to travel to San Diego. And I think it all hit reality the day before their actual presentation when we walked into the room where they were going to present. Would you agree? When we walked into that room, and they had heard it was going to be 15,000 people. I don't think they really could comprehend that. I don't think we could comprehend that. And you walked into that room and saw those empty seats and their eyes, and I thought we might have lost them at that point. But they got to meet, I'll let Josh tell you about some of the people they got to meet behind the scenes. But I still think, and I think I've said this to you before, for two 10-year-old girls, or any child that age, to be able to speak in front of 15,000 people, when we have teachers who are nervous sometimes about talking in front of their own peers. The skills that we are being able to give these children and these opportunities. And it goes back to when we opened Sonora. We wanted Sonora to be known and to be recognized statewide, and in our country. This has brought, and Lindsay's vision, when I interviewed her and we talked about being known internationally, these girls spoke to an international crowd. To watch the tweets that were coming up as they were presenting, and then to go to the map room with them later that night, where people that were in this conference of 15,000 were able to come up and talk to them, and they heard all the different dialects and met people from countries all over the world. That you can't explain the experience. There's no money or value to put on that experience. What our vision is, and Josh and I have talked, is so much is being put upon these two girls that they did this, and they are definitely the people that are able to bring that forth. But the girls even said in their presentation that they're representing the work of other kids back at school. And that's, I think, what Josh and I want to be really cautious as we move forward this year, because they've already been invited to speak at the State Board of Education in September, and then to go to the Missouri GIS conference and be keynote speakers there in February. So we're trying to, and already brainstorming, how do we expand who is the representative of that, because it is not just these two girls, and we don't want that to go unnoticed, that they are really representing the work of 100 and more other kids at school, but they just happen to be the ones at that time and place that were able to give that opportunity. So it's just awe-inspiring, and I'll let Josh tell you about behind the scenes and the getting mic'd up and the people they got to meet behind stage.
To kind of give you a little information of what Esri is, Esri was founded in the early 60s by a man named Jack Dangerman, who is still the president and CEO of the company. If you Google him, you'll see how much he's worth. He's up there. He just recently donated $1 billion to the Connect Ed initiative through the federal government, to allow this software that costs $30 a seat. So if we were to put that software on that computer, it would cost $30,000. We've got 14 seats in our classroom. That's kind of a perk of being an East program. But this software now is available starting in September, any K through 12th grade classroom in the nation. And so that was kind of the girls' mission, was to go out on the stage and show 15,000 professionals that use this software every single day it can be used by younger kids. And kind of the idea was to get them to partner up, form the relationships with our schools, and be what they call geo-mentors. And so GIS, mapping satellites, altitude, creating a 3D atmosphere. I mean, we had people from NASA there. We had people from the government, all 4 branches of the military. They used this software. Starbucks was there. They did a presentation. They opened a Starbucks store every 3 days in China, and they were mapping up and that's a big part of business. We met about 15 people from Walmart that almost started a hog call when we were up on stage, and we were like, you should have.
I have to say, on the Starbucks, what was so amazing is we were like, Starbucks, and we were vying for where in Springdale they should put one. But what was interesting is after it was over with, the Starbucks people were coming over begging for pictures with these girls.
It was really cool. And so, the girls, we went to Redlands 4 days before, and they worked 12-hour days. And, we've got a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I'm thinking we're going to hit a wall at some point. Just because usually if you're doing some service work, you get a good hour and a half, and then you've got a break. But they grinded it out the entire day. We had lunch in the Esri Cafe, and he requested that we call him Jack. We can't call him Mr. Dangerman. But you've got a guy that's worth several $1 billion see you across campus, walk across campus to shake these 2 girls' hands, and then eat a piece of pizza with them. It was honestly the coolest thing I'd gotten to observe. And then, to see them manipulate this data and use this software on the big stage, it was amazing. The girls, let's see, who did we get to meet? We got to meet U.S. Secretary of Commerce, who's in Africa right now trying to secure jobs and things like that. We got to meet the president of NOAA, which just happened to be, and I can't remember her name, but she was the first female astronaut to do a spacewalk, and they got to.
She gave the girls coins.
Difference maker coins, yeah, it was pretty cool. Will.I.am from the Black Eyed Peas Skyped in, so the girls really connected with that. He was actually there. He was the keynote speaker the year before. He just graduated from Harvard, I believe, on the side of being a pop star. Jane Goodall Skyped in, and, took some time off from talking to the chimps and Skyped in. As well as we had a great address from Arnie Duncan, who kind of introduced us and talked about the big donation that Esri had made. And see our girls kind of be the leaders of that to show that it can be done in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, when 5 years ago it was believed you had to have a graduate level degree to use this software. So it was a great experience, and the hospitality. San Diego is amazing. I'd never been to California. I've been to Colorado on some ski trips, but San Diego, they were very good to us.
Took care of us. And we just want to thank you all, Dr. Rollins and the board, for allowing us to take these 2 young ladies on this trip and represent, because they represented our school district internationally exceedingly well.
That's a big vote of confidence when you let us take 2 9-year-olds that far, not just one state but several states. So that was great.
Well, I think several board members have seen that too. I would like maybe some of you ladies and gentlemen to comment back to them, what you thought of what you saw.
It's fantastic. I mean, it was just amazing to see, and just exciting. And I wanted to hop on a plane and be there. And I was following your tweets and your updates on Facebook and everywhere, and every single day it was just like, what are they doing? Are they, and I thank you for taking the time daily to do that, just because it made all of us here feel like we were a part of it.
We had the easy job. The girls were the ones that do it. And really the only prerequisite for them was they were available. They were willing to give up 10 days of their summer to do this. We could have picked a handful of kids back at our school. I mean, it's just they were available, and they nailed it.
Well, I thought they were just amazing. Their maturity level, their composure, just how they presented themselves and the material. I mean, it was truly amazing to see what a 9 and 10-year-old really could do.
The only backdrop, I think, for Josh and I is we thought, okay, all these wonderful places to eat, when you're in San Diego. And so after they're presenting, Josh said, y'all get to choose anywhere you want tonight. And I think we had cheese pizza every
Cheese pizza or chicken strips, so that's about it. And you've got all
That was our sustenance
these
for a good week.
world-renowned restaurants.
And you have to give, you see their presentation, you have to look at them truly as that 9 and 10-year-old when we were there, and Josh was reading the menu at one place. He said, girls, because it had some seafood, he really had it on his heart's desire to eat, and the menu item was yummy chicken strips, and the girls said they're trying too hard. They like to call them yummy, I'm not going there. So, like I said, so you have to realize they're still 9 and 10-year-olds, and then to see them get up on stage and be able to present that, it's just humbling, and the opportunities and the facilitation that Mr. Worth is doing with that group, but he needs all the accolades for that. We're just proud to represent.
You will get a chance to see them. They're going to be here Thursday afternoon for the back-to-school meeting, and they're going to do a live demo very similar to what they did, hopefully to get some teachers in the room inspired to try it out now that it's free, and maybe some kids as well.
Well, if that won't inspire them, I don't know what will. I mean, that was just absolutely amazing when we got to watch it together last month. I mean, just sit there.
Well, thank
Well
you
done.
both. Y'all have provided enormous leadership to this team, and I know how much these young people count on you being there for them, and you certainly have been.
We enjoyed it.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Luttrell, item C on the agenda, we have given some acknowledgement to Ryan Thompson being named a National Merit Scholar with the University of Arkansas, and you see some supporting information to that effect on page 48. So I just want to bring that back to your attention. Hopefully Ryan can be here with us and at some point, and we can talk more with him. Mr. Jenks, Springdale High School just received a phenomenal recognition as well. Please share that with the board.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rollins. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, right before school got out this past school year, we were informed that Springdale High School had been recognized by Southern Regional Education Board. Their umbrella group, they're the umbrella group for the High Schools That Work Coalition, which is a group of roughly about 22 states across the country that looks to try to mesh core classes and workforce education together to try to combine them to bring relevance and academics and rigor to both groups in our schools. Springdale High School was recognized this year as a Platinum High School Award winner. To do this, you have to have 85% of your seniors meet at least one or more career readiness goals. 85% of your seniors completed one or more parts of the High School That Work recommended curriculum, which is 4 English classes, 4 math classes, 3 science, and 3 social studies, and a career or academic concentration. At least 85% of our seniors completed at least one recommended academic or career concentration. We are considered a high implementation site by High Schools That Work. We gave our seniors the High School That Work assessment at the end of the year, and they scored very well on that. We meet our graduation rate of 85% or higher and did not have the award last year. Of the schools in the state of Arkansas, only 5 were recognized. They were Siloam Springs, Lakeside, Lake Hamilton, El Dorado, and we were the only 7A school in the state of Arkansas to be recognized for this award. We're very honored about this. Our staff and our faculty has done a phenomenal job working together to bring relevance and rigor to our students, and we're very proud of this, and we're going to share it with our faculty and our students in our pep rallies to show what kind of great job our kids and our staff are doing for this. I got the pleasure of taking my administrative staff to Nashville to get this award. Dr. Gene Bottoms, who Dr. Rollins is a great colleague with, I got the pleasure of being able to be awarded that on stage with him and represent our school and our school district there. So I just want, I appreciate the time for us. We've got a banner, always got to have the visual, so we'll be hanging this up in our school, and we've let our community know about it as well, and they're very excited about it as well. I don't know about the green though, but we're very excited. We have this distinction for 2 years, it seems, in 2016. So yeah, I've entertained any questions from you, but if not, then I appreciate your time to allow me to bring this to your attention.
Well, I think we know it's always nice to be recognized for your work, and Joe, I know that you probably were part of this as well. And, you know, it's certainly good. You know, I was just thinking about, as Dr. Rollins and I met this morning, we were kind of talking about this and talking about CTE and career training and the partnerships that we have with some of the folks that have come in this meeting. And you think about Tyson Foods and Cargill and Multicraft. And, you know, I was opening a bank account the other day, and the little lady started telling me about her son that had graduated from high school and had a connection with Kimball Mechanical and how they were working together and how he has, you know, something sitting there waiting on him. And I mean, all of this is kind of part of that too. So
That's a perfect example.
I mean, we're just seeing it work.
The idea is that, you know, for a long time, workforce ed and core curriculum were almost looked upon as being two separate parties, which Dr. Gene Bottoms has done a phenomenal leadership in our country to explain how those two are mutually tied together. And with this advent of Common Core curriculum coming on, we're getting more and more of that where our students have to be career and college ready now. And it's gratifying to know that a third party can look at us and look us over and give us an audit and tell us that we're doing a good job with that and preparing our kids as best as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Good evening. I want you to think back to about November when I came here and I told you about the Every Artist project that our kids in grades 1 through 6 were participating in. About 6,000 of our children participated in this, and along with children from other districts from Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville, other districts in Northwest Arkansas. Well, that project actually won a Golden Achievement Award with the National School Public Relations Association. So our kids were a part of a huge project. There were about 41,000 children nationwide who participated in this project. You may have seen the results of what our kids did at the Jones Center. I've seen it at the Walton Arts Center. They are posted at the trailheads in all over Northwest Arkansas. So the art that our kids created around the word gratitude is being posted all over Arkansas. And it was quite an event, and I wanted to share that with you, that we were part of winning that Golden Achievement Award, which is a very high award with the National School Public Relations Association.
Beautiful project.
It is. It was a great
Absolutely beautiful project.
Well, and I think too, one of the things that's interesting about this is that it was several of the school districts in Northwest Arkansas that worked on it, you know, just between the things that the Northwest Council is doing and an example like this of working with, you know, our peers out there. I think this is a great indication that we can work together, and we can.
And actually, I used 2 or 3 of the pictures as the background on my phone for several months because they were just so great to see that kid art.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks for that report, Kathy, and thanks for helping pull all of our work together. Ms. Vanderspicken, if you'd come forward. Setting the stage for excellence, aren't we, Joe? Great job.
During a board meeting last spring, one of the board members suggested that it would be beneficial to know just how much award-winning money Springdale educators had received through the Economics Arkansas Little Rock Bessie B. Moore Curriculum Awards Program. And this is a program where our K through 12 teachers write original, notice I said original curriculum, and that curriculum is presented in Little Rock, and then it's replicated by other teachers around the state of Arkansas. Our Springdale teachers do exemplary work as they go from good to great. I think they are curriculum strong, and they provide modeling for other teachers across the state of Arkansas, which is wonderful for our district. I prepared a report for Dr. Rollins, so if you would look at page 62 first, it indicates a total of $12,000 received in prize monies just from the Bessie B. Moore Awards. And in addition, on page 2 that I just handed out, an additional $34,000 was received through Arkansas Securities, and that is technology strong, where teachers can get Chromebooks and laptops for their classrooms and even buy the carts to have them and make them mobile. That award is always announced in October, so I hope to come back in October and share the teacher's success with that. Then last but not least, Jennifer Totten from Economics Arkansas will be in our district as a consultant on the first Friday in September, and she is going to work individually with teachers who are interested in applying for the $750 classroom materials grant. That is additional monies, and I'll check and look at the 10-year progress on that when we meet. So it's really gracious of her to come. Last but not least, Springdale School District is going to host a 3-day high school statewide economics professional development here in Springdale rather than send our teachers to Little Rock, and that will be the follow-up from our 2-day that we started last year. Any questions, Board?
Is there, I mean, as far as this one goes, what size grants is the range that's available for a teacher on one of these?
The grants usually are up to around $4,000.
Okay, all right.
And I always try to encourage the teachers to ask as much as they can as they write it up, but some are more frugal than others. But usually if it's up to $4,000, they will fund it.
I noticed it looked like at least the last 2 years the grants have been a little bit larger. I didn't know if that was just because it was a larger request or if they changed their strategy of how they were giving their money.
It also depends, sir, on how much money the benefactors give each year, how much they have to give.
Where are you hosting the seminar?
We're going to host it in the Professional Development Center.
How many do you expect?
Usually we have around 70, 75. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Joe, let me just make this comment. And Board, I'm really asking for your thoughtfulness here as well. As we move more and more into the implementation of Common Core and the structure that comes with that, I think there's enormous strength in that. But at the same time, and we talked about this in our back-to-school work with principals, this need to bring the 21st century skills forward as it relates to creativity and problem solving. I tried to introduce material around the term of entrepreneurship. And I think of all the work that we've tried to do in really economic education to really give our kids an opportunity to simulate business practices, to think through their creation of businesses, marketing plans that we work on throughout the course of the year as well. I would really appreciate it if those who've been leaders in economic ed in the district could help us give definition to that entrepreneurial piece. I know that you and leaders from Economic Arkansas have been working with our ALE with the idea that we might bring some of those applied practices to front and center as well. Over and over again, we've talked about economic literacy as being a centerpiece of our school system. But I do think the timing could not be better for us to bring new initiatives around that entrepreneurial spirit forward, because I think history tells itself over and over again, the thing that's made America great is that entrepreneurial spirit, that creative side that we see brought forward in the business sector over and over and over again. And as we kind of try to resurrect, if you will, CTE and the focus on vocational and so forth, again, the timing could not be better, in my opinion, to begin to build that entrepreneurial side as well. So if you and those who've invested so much in this could really think with us about that, I would appreciate it.
We are also working on a partnership, I'll report later, but with the Springdale Chamber of Commerce Lemonade Stand Day, and we're meeting on the 19th of this month, so I'll get more information to you later. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Mr. Rollins, I think you've got some very special recognitions to make.
This is how you know you're important. You have an entourage. This is right on the heels of what you were saying. There's not been a better time to be a part of career technical education, and I get to work with some of the best teachers that I would venture to be in any district around and beyond. Tonight there are two teachers in front of you who once again have been recognized at the state level for being outstanding JAG Teachers of the Year, and also recipients of the 505 Award, which relates right back to their employment rate through their JAG programs. Mr. James, congratulations again. Would you please visit?
Not all at once.
Let's go ladies first.
There you go.
Okay, so this year is my first year as a JAG teacher at Springdale High School. Previously had been at several school districts, had the opportunity to serve in our district. And I just thought I was doing the ordinary things that teachers do. Help prepare my kids for the jobs they go to every day, some mock interviews. Kids who don't think they can go to college, we apply. We apply for scholarships. They say, Miss Reed, I got in. I can go to college. What a blessing that is to see that. And so looking back and being reflective, the only reason the award was given to me, and I mean, Coach James can speak for himself, but it's the kids. And without the kids, the award wouldn't be possible. I wouldn't wake up and get to do what I get to do every day. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, but let me thank April, because April took the place of my wife this year as the first-year JAG specialist, and Sherry was one of the founders in the state writing the JAG curriculum. And when Sherry decided to leave, she said, I know who I want to take my place. And she didn't run it past me. She just told me it would be April Reed. And so April's done a fantastic job this year, stepping in Sherry's shoes. Our JAG program at Springdale High School is one of the strongest. We have 2 at the high school. We have one at HAR-BER and one at ALE now. And our program at Springdale is 1 5-on-5. Sherry's program is won it every year, 14 years in a row. So April just stepped right in her shoes and just kept everything going the way it had been. And this is my 10th year teaching JAG and the 10th year that I've won 5-on-5. But to win Specialist of the Year, really special for April, because she was the only first-year teacher in JAG to win that honor this year. So I think she should get a round of applause for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Build that connection as you make your comments. How many kids are we working with? How many kids are we placing in a workplace situation? Talk about that career readiness piece. Help us see all that through the Jobs for Arkansas Graduates program.
Well, we're state mandated to only have 45 students per class, so we have at least 90, but we go over a little bit. We get approval to go up to 100 sometimes, because we have kids who come into the program who need our program to finish high school. That's the main thing that April's talking about. It's the kids that we can help. And so we go through a process of interviewing students during CAP in the spring. We select those students and we tell them it's a privilege to be in JAG. And so we are all about respect and getting the job done, graduating those students, placing them in college, post-secondary education, the military, going to school part-time, working full-time, going to school full-time, working part-time. All of those are pieces of the project that we help our students each year.
I don't care who you are, 14 years in a row at anything, and 10 years in a row for you, and Rookie of the Year for you. I mean, those are tremendous in what you do, and thanks for sharing that with us and being part of the team. That's great.
Let me add something real fast.
Please do.
Our job is very data-driven, and we had a little over 90%. We follow our kids for a year, so our kids that we have just graduated, we'll be in connection with them and their employers for the rest of the year, just to help them be successful. If they say, "Hey, I've got an interview," "Hey, come by, let me help coach you through that." If they maybe need help creating a resume, I'd love to help you. That's what I'm here for. So we just help support them. 92% of our students were either in school full-time or working full-time at the end of the last year cycle. So our kids are knocking it out of the water. They're doing awesome when you look at nationally what students are doing after high school. So we're pretty proud.
Can you remind us what employers you work with?
Oh, goodness. We have a lot. We probably have 50 or 60 different employers across.
Small businesses, medium,
large businesses.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mom and pop operations to Tyson and Walmart. Sonic is one of our big employers. They employ a lot of kids. they can work, after school and in evenings.
Is there any trade activities, welders, or is that another program? Is this?
That's agriculture primarily.
Okay.
For the welding part.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, way to go. Hey, Joe, don't run off. I think you may have something to tell us about the School of Innovation, if there's anything going on over there right now. Few things. All right.
Let me take you back a week to when all of the administrators were in Little Rock at the state conference. There was a speaker there. He was the opening speaker, general session, in my mind, quite possibly the speaker of the conference. He was animated, he was inviting, he drew all the people in, said all the right things, but he asked the right question. And it was the same question that we asked in your office upstairs about a year ago. What if? What if we could change the rules? What if we could do certain things? What if we could accommodate our students better? Monday morning, we're going to do that. In the last week, and I want to make sure I say thank you publicly, in the last week or so, we've really taken ownership of our rooms. We're creating a school in a public space, which is new for us, and it's created all kinds of things that most of the things we expected, some that we're learning as we go. But thank you to each of you. Every one of you have been there in the last 2 or 3 hours, and then some, and beyond. But it's been all hands on deck, and there was never any complaining, never any overly large amounts of frustration toward anybody. It's been wonderful. And Monday morning, even after all of the dust settles in terms of students who are staying or have moved, or we're still well over our mark. We're still well over 200 students that are going to be there on Monday. And we're going to bring forward a curriculum and instruction model that, in all honesty, is going to be, in my opinion, the strongest that we've brought forward today. And it talks about all the things that we bring to you in this room every month. More personalization for all of our students. You're hearing about the career and technical education things that we're doing now. We're going to put that to work for every one of our students. It starts from day one. We're going to create personalized learning plans for every student there. And that involves everything from learning, work styles, future career descriptions, courses that they want to take at the college level to help them achieve workforce certificates, potential internships that every student will serve before they graduate. And it's going to be driven by a school advisor, a junior college advisor, and a workforce and industry advisor, all coming to the aid of these kids, because that's what we do for our students. So before all of our students graduate, we're going to achieve those 3 main things that we've worked for. They're going to have the diploma, they're going to have those workforce certificates, they're going to have workforce skills, and they're going to have enough college hours to accumulate an associate's degree from college before they graduate high school. And that program doesn't exist anywhere in the country except right here. It's without question that we're doing the right thing based on the attention that we're getting, the phone calls that I'm getting. We're making headlines. People are watching, and they're going to continue to come see what we're doing. I'm getting calls from area or other states in our region, across the country. Some of the larger news affiliates have called. Mr. Schaefer, I'm going to be sending all those folks your way.
There he is.
Opening day is Monday. We've still got some things to do between now and then, but they're going to be here, and so are we. It's going to be exciting. I hope you can all come through and take a walk. It's going to be fun to watch. So thank you for letting me be there, and I'll certainly answer any questions that you've got. But at least give it my best effort to, anyway.
Well, I think about that whiteboard that said "what if" when he was probably bringing us in one at a time, to kind of look at that. And I don't think I could have dreamed that we would be where we are today. And, with really your vision, Dr. Rollins, on that, and kind of helping us learn and understand, and really the way you've kind of taken over, it's going to be amazing to see. You talked about entrepreneurship earlier in education. Yes, we're assessed. Yes, there's Park. Yes, there's Common Core. But if you've got a way to marry that with the entrepreneurial stuff, wow, what a great idea.
Among many, the charge that we're going to give to all of our students, we're not just going to get ready for tomorrow. We're going to continue getting ready for every tomorrow after that, and that includes not only the subject matter that our kids have to learn, but how they learn it. A lot of crossover lessons, a lot of real-world application. math and science being taught together, multiple math courses being taught simultaneously. Our kids came in and we provided an orientation and they asked the question, how are you going to teach me? I said, I'm not just going to teach you, I'm going to prepare you. There's no bell out there in the real world that tells you when to put down an issue and to pick up something else. You have to know how it applies and how it works together. That's the way that we're going to teach our kids, and then we're going to add back into that industry-specific and professional skills that our community is asking for. We're going to create a student that when they graduate, not only are they going to compete, but they're going to win.
Sounds good. Any other questions for Joe? All right. Go get after it.
We have the opportunity.
All right, thanks for sharing. Appreciate it.
Dr. Jones? Board, we're on item H, page 2 of the agenda. We're going to look at the race to the
I
top.
got one question. Mr. Rollins?
Yes, sir.
Are you in the Springdale Athletic Hall of Fame?
No, sir, but I'm married to one.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Thank you, thank you. I won't come to every board meeting. Obviously, Dr. Rollins can guide me in terms of when I should come or not, but I wanted to come tonight because and I'll probably be here next month, Dr. Rollins, because of the budget, but we are at the brink of our beginning of year 2 of the grant. That seems a little odd, but we had a short first year. We got kind of acclimated to the work. We got the logic plan, the logic model written, we got the summaries table written, all of the requirements in play, and now we're ready to go. I had a conversation with Dr. Rollins last week, trying to keep him in the mix of it. My intent is to keep you in the mix of it because there's important work happening, the iSchool being a primary example of that. But when I talk with U.S. Department of Education people, I get asked very serious questions. Here's one I was asked. Which of your programs has made a national impact so far? Well, my answer was, not yet. But we're getting there. We're getting there with the iSchool. We're getting there with our new academies. I had a chance to talk to Stowe Hoffius yesterday. He's wanting to generate in the new academy at HAR-BER a model for the nation in helping high school students accelerate getting connected to internships through the plumbing program. These are the national impact things. Obviously, Joe's already feeling the focus of the iSchool having a national impact. The other question I'm asked is justify personalization. Every dime has to justify we're personalizing instruction. I'm working on the budget. I'll have it prepared for Dr. Rollins and then for the board to review next month. But as I'm doing that, in the process of it, he'll say, look at Project X, line 3, exactly how does that support personalization? So the colleagues that I have supporting the projects that are out leading the work that you see in the work plans that are provided for you are those work plans that are helping me be able to answer the question, how do we justify the expenditures of funds? And so my work, quite frankly, is to authenticate and provide evidence that the work we're doing in every project is leading to meeting our district's goals that ultimately result in a more personalized learning environment for kids. We've been designing a definition of personalization. We've been working on gathering academic information about deep learning because those two things go together. That's what we want as an outcome for our kids. Those are goals stated in our logic model. I don't need to go through the work here unless you have questions, but presented to you is a memo to Dr. Rollins that defines the activity of the different projects. If there wasn't any big activity, I didn't put it in. The next section of that I've given you are the specific work plans. These are developing documents. Some of them are more complete than others. I met with Tamika, was it yesterday, Tamika? She's already said, I know I need to create more detail in our plan, and coming on board new, she will get that done. And she has quite a few of the projects under her watch. So I'm looking forward to that. We have a calendar of a few events that are coming up this next month, and then the summary of the budget, which simply shows what we've encumbered, what we've drawn down from the federal government. We have, in summary to the budget, We had scheduled to spend about $8 million first year. We ended up spending a little over 3. There's nothing wrong with that. And today, Dr. Rollins, I learned that we can have an extension of expenditures through year 5 if we want to. That's very good news. So every time I talk to the U.S. Department of Technical Advisors, they give me good information that helps us then do some future planning. So I'm enjoying my work tremendously. I'm met today with the University of Arkansas people who are interested in doing research with our project. I met today with our TOSAs who are doing the curriculum writing work, and I will meet with the technical integrated technology integration specialists tomorrow. And so I'm again trying to acclimate them to the logic model, to the budget, and things that they need to know to get their work done, and the work plans. I also have given you a much more user-friendly copy of the annual report. This is a kind of a highlights document. Dr. Ross, did you get one? So those are available for you as you see fit. So, any questions about Race to the Top or any specific project work?
So what's the, on the, like the 5,000 Chromebooks, what's the timeline? Or how many have we gotten in?
We've gotten in and distributed, if Eric's still here, 5,000.
5,000 are in schools.
They're in schools now.
Training for students on Monday. Another 5,000 just showed up at our warehouse last week, and we're preparing them to go out. So they should be out about first of October. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks.
And the next 5,000, we already ordered those.
As soon as those are done.
Yeah, so we're wanting to get all the technology in, but we have to have some orientation distribution time. Thank you, thank you.
Where are the 5,000 going first?
The first phase,
Yeah.
they're in the schools.
Yeah.
They are in the schools and typically where we have secured locations, alarm locations, in carts, waiting for the kids to come. So the teachers are now getting oriented.
What schools though? Where?
All of them.
Oh, just spread out.
Every school has a pilot of them, so they can begin to get accustomed to the environment.
And in one of the annual report documents, it showed the distribution of all of the computers that were purchased in one of Rita Curtis's ABSCAN reports, because it has to be assigned to a school. So we can get that information.
What other schools will have 15,000 Chromebooks in the hands?
Some of the other Race to the Top schools are purchasing one-to-one technology. But in Arkansas, there are schools that are already at one-to-one, but they're smaller districts. So to ask about scale, we're probably one of the few at this scale.
Dr. John, it makes me so happy that you are there to answer those questions.
So he's still asking the questions now about how you're going to justify, and I hate to use the word justify. I mean, we've already justified why we need the money.
But we're just opening through a new budget. And the budget will be done every year, because we didn't spend the money the way we thought we were going to do year one, because we didn't know when year one was going to start.
Right, but he's asking you to show how this personalized learning is going to improve, and we're going to close the gap. So we're just really in that phase of determining measuring sticks, right? Because I mean, you're only half a year really into it.
Right.
So.
And they don't even want a report from us on measurement indicators until a year from now in June. So they're not pushing us about that, but next month, a preview, we will have our UCLA Center X liaison who is designing the evaluation tool for us. She was in the district today as well. So there'll be more detail about how we're being held accountable. And to be fair, we added Project 12 at their suggestion, which is the iSchool. So some of the justifications I'm having to do are linked to things that weren't in the original grant. But they're very open. He has to make a report up line, and so he looks at my line item and he can't read behind it, so I need to tell him, well, this is why we're doing that, and this is why the money is of value, and it's beyond what the district would do, and it's supporting personalization.
But really, I'm not trying to make it too difficult. At the end of the day, if we hadn't gotten this money, I mean, we have these goals as a school district for student development, student growth, learning, all those goals that we have. I mean, this is just really enhancing that, right?
Absolutely.
So those are all running down the same path, and
Absolutely.
we're not measuring, 50 different things and, got to waste a bunch of time measuring just because you're doing this. I know there is some piece of that that's, because it's a lot of the government requirements, but
one of the things Dr.
we got a big audacious goal, it ought to run concurrent with this right here.
Exactly. Because, for example, we want all kids on grade level in grade 3. One of the indicators that was required of us, quite frankly, in the grant was, what is your achievement level at grade 3? So it's, Dr. Rollins has said this many times publicly, and I'm so appreciative. The grant is a catalyst to achieve the things we had already chosen to do. If it was a mismatch, it wouldn't have been funded because that wasn't where our heart was, and that would have been okay. I don't know if you know this or not, but I wrote an I-3 grant that wasn't funded. It was where my heart about that issue was, but it didn't align with the federal government's vision. So they didn't fund it, but I didn't want to go where they wanted to fund it. So, that's the work. We're only being a catalyst to the district's vision mission, not trying to manipulate the vision mission. Does that make sense?
It does. I was just making sure that my line of thinking was
You are on target. Absolutely.
on par with what you're explaining.
Now, are we stretching the boundaries, Dr. Rollins? We are. Absolutely. The high school is stretching the boundaries. And that's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Okay, any other questions? No?
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Marcia.
Great work. Mr. Stelling.
Board members, Dr. Rollins, Cynthia, good evening. It's a joy that I get to visit with you about our Springdale Athletic Hall of Fame that we hosted this past Saturday evening in the cafeteria. We inducted 10 new members to the Hall of Fame, ranging from the 50s all the way up to 2004, and it was a joy to listen to their stories. It's from a football player playing at about 140 pounds in 1953, to a soccer player, to a track athlete. The different stories, and the stories they shared about the people that had touched their lives. The coaches, the teachers, different people. And so that was exciting. What I like about the Hall of Fame banquet is that it kind of kicks off our year. We do it here early August, and then just like that, right after the Hall of Fame banquet is Kiwanis Kids Day. And then after that, it's volleyball showcase in the district. And then it's the football pigskin previews. And just like that, another athletic school year takes off, and it all starts typically with our Hall of Fame banquet. And 300 people there sharing dinner, sharing conversation, and listening to some great stories that makes Springdale, Springdale. Thank you.
Have you ever seen the video of my high school athletic career at Springdale High School?
It was real short, small.
Yeah, that's about right. Don't say anything, Randy. Oh, I tried.
I think he's lobbying to get that in front of the Hall of Fame committee.
Yeah, that's right.
Except when you're throwing M&Ms off the three-story building.
I'm going to give a little kudos to the athletic director. He had to stand kind of probably in front of a little difficult crowd at HAR-BER and explain that we've oversold our booster seats there and tell them that we had to give up some chair backs. And he and Coach Wood did a pretty good job. Nothing thrown at them. And he did a good job explaining about the parking too. So there's a lot of excitement going on in our HAR-BER High School athletic.
September 19th is going to be an exciting day.
Yeah, I think there's several chiefs right now that are wanting to help, but They're keeping it pretty lined up. In there.
Well, how many fingers can, Michelle, how many fingers can we cross here?
Every one of them.
I am told, as late as this afternoon, that we are on schedule with our stadium, which is really a great thing. So how many days do we have left, Jack? We're counting days now, aren't we? Board, if you turn to page 141, we just tried to capture a summary of the events that really have become pretty traditional with opening of school. But as you can see, starting with new teacher orientation, there have been significant initiatives coming forward virtually every day. And so if you follow these next few pages, you get a real sense of that. Mike, as we talked this morning, there's a posting, I think, on your webpage, maybe Cynthia helped clarify that today, of work that we did with our principals. And as we tried to set the stage for what I really believe will be the best year in the history of our school system. And again, you saw with our introduction tonight, 15 new members of the administrative team. And a little later, Jared will talk to you about the new teachers that are on the team. And so there's a need to continue to grow the culture of our school system. And I think I need to grow it at a time, from my perspective, that I think the culture is at the highest level that we've ever seen it. Our people plan together, they work together. You know, we talk about the School of Innovation. That would not have been possible had it not been for the help of every principal in the district. They helped open the doors, they helped share the information, they encouraged kids that they really thought would be a great fit for that program. And so, again, everybody plays a role. This board plays an enormous role in terms of creating a culture of excellence in our school system. So my point is, on the posting, you'll see a major presentation on trust. And it talks about self-trust. It talks about organizational trust. It talks about really the trust that happens within the market and within society, and how to grow that and build it. And all of that's taken from a really wonderful text by the son of Stephen Covey, who we've all read and studied his work. And I would encourage you to take a look at that. It has great application for our schools, but frankly, it has great applications for us as individuals, for those of us who are trying to lead businesses, et cetera. So it's really good material. And from that, going back to the work that we did at National School Boards, when we sat and listened to Friedman, and he tried to build the case in terms of our work today, is how do we prepare kids to, in a world that's becoming hyper-connected. Y'all remember that term? Michelle, pick up on that. What does that mean? What was the story he was trying to talk to us about when he was talking about 7 billion people in the world is flat, all of those people being connected together, and how that changes the workplace that our kids will be going into. You have any memory about that? Or Randy, or anyone build on that?
Well, just talking about the technology that's out there now that wasn't there even 5-10 years ago, and everybody, I mean, there is, you can talk to somebody halfway across the world and share ideas and do stuff that you would never have been able to do.
Y'all
I guess
remember
what this
him
innovation
giving us
is.
a great argument where he said, average is over? Y'all remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really powerful for us to kind of bring home, to think together about in terms of, well, what does that mean, Mike, in terms of how do we prepare our kids to really be successful in this hyper-connected world? There's a great author out there, he's a young author, he's on the staff of the University of Oregon today, and he talks about this need for balance. That's what I was trying to say earlier. We're working so hard to bring new learning standards forward in every classroom. With that comes structure. With that could easily come, Danny, the narrowing of curriculum. If we allowed that to happen, that would be perhaps a natural progression as we get more and more focused on what we're doing. And Young Zal talks about what's made this country great, what's made America great. It's over time, and it's that creative element. And so this idea of balancing the structure that comes with the new standards versus creating new opportunities for kids to think and problem solve and apply their learning, all those things that you see coming forward. Friedman talked about every graduate should be innovation ready. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that, Michael?
See, you take a lot better notes than I do. I'll give you credit.
See, there's a reason you take all those notes.
And I noticed your slides were 255 slides, and I haven't gotten through all of them yet.
But, you know, you think, well, what does that mean? Every child should be innovation ready. Those very things that we talk about a lot, but maybe we haven't given enough definition to. So as we work with principals, we talk about Friedman's work, we talk about Young Zal's work, we talk about building trust across the organization so that what? The organization can work more synergistically, work together, where everybody, the board's got a role, the principal's got a role, the teachers, moms and dads have a role, everybody working together to support the learning of our kids. Marcia, how many times did we pick up on that concept in our race to the top definition, not those really what's become 12 programs now. So, Kathy, it does all fit together beautifully if you're reflective about that and playing accordingly. So, anyway, we tried to set the stage for that with our principals, and they were beautiful, really. They were great students of just the conversation. They contributed immensely to it, and it'll be wonderful now to see that those kind of ideas take root as we go forward in the year ahead. I have no doubt that this will be the best year ever in the history of the Springdale schools, and all we have to do is build on the platform that we've created year after year after year after year. And you see young kids, like on Thursday, we're going to start our program with our kids from Sonora, followed by a young lady from J.O. Kelly. Concluded by one of our former graduates who just graduated from Brown University. So the program Thursday is there to let our kids demonstrate their growth. And the message clearly is every teacher in this school system, through your contributions, have helped get those kids ready. Now, how do we build on that in the year ahead? That makes sense. I think that's what great schools do. They stretch. They try to get better. They try to involve every stakeholder in the conversation. We've been about that for a long, long time. The work that we did this summer with our professional learning community should jettison that entire process. It should take it forward. Michael, the information is here so y'all can follow that schedule. But I hope that really not just because you're a board member, but really because you're a leader in the community, you're trying to lead your homes, you're trying to lead your businesses, etc. Take a look at that background material that we brought forward from Covey's work. It's pretty special. Okay. Anything I can help you with?
I think you told me this morning the name of the book by Mr. Covey is
The Speed of Trust.
The Speed of Trust, and there were 5 different areas of trust, and I guess your slides do address some of that.
Yes, sir. And the whole idea, if you built a culture steeped in trust, where we're all trying to grow and take care of each other, and just being advisors to the process, being critical friends one with the other, how can we help move it forward? Make just as another famous Luttrell once said, all you have to be is right. And that's what we're trying to be every time, aren't we? And there's growth. There's a need for growth all along the way in that process. Thursday should be a wonderful day. Are y'all familiar with the schedules laid out here tomorrow? As you know, we'll be at the convention center, 7:30 or so, greeting, shaking hands with teachers. I believe we're bringing in secondary and middle level teachers tomorrow, and we'll be there from 7:30 to 11 or so. And then on Thursday morning, that repeats itself with our elementary teachers 7:30 to 11 or so, and then in the afternoon, we'll reconvene at the auditorium at Springdale High School, and we'll have 1,500 to 1,600 staff members there, all trying to celebrate the opening of school. We've got some phenomenal keynote speakers that will come right alongside the young people that I've already acknowledged. A.J. Malchi, the founder of Nanomec, if you will. We wanted to bring our business community into that conversation and do it under that STEM umbrella that we're seeing reflected in our high school and with the High Schools at Work initiative. AJ will be a keynote speaker for us, and I think will be a fascinating contributor to our program. And then we'll bring our friends who've helped us bring the Race to the Top initiative forward, and we'll try to give more definition to this idea of student growth, student engagement, build on the platforms that we've already developed over the last 3 or 4 years. Students more and more in control of their own learning. I asked Dr. DiMartino, and you've heard that reference before. Here's a man who spent his entire life leading and influencing educational growth. And I said, Joe, what's the most important initiative that you've been involved in to this point in your career? And he said, elevating student voice in the learning. And that really took me back. I was thoughtful about that. And there were so many pieces to it. What do you got to do to get kids ready to be more involved, more engaged in learning? But the internal, at the core of that entire belief is if kids are more in control of their own learning, if they've got a voice in that process, then they're more connected to the learning. They understand where they are. Years ago, as we talked about visioning, the most important vision that an individual can have is where do they fit in that vision. Kevin, your vision for your business, where do you fit in that? Your role, how do you influence it? How can you shape it and fashion it? That applies across the spectrum, and certainly applies to our children. And so we don't understand all that just yet, I expect, but Kathy, we're learners in it, aren't we? We're trying to figure it out, and we're seeing some good examples. And our kids may not be ready in August or September or October, but if we do our work well and we involve them in that process, hopefully by the spring they'll be ready to be real contributors to that process. So we'll see how that goes. It's certainly a stretch for me, and I expect it will be for everybody. But if in that process we can get our kids more connected to the learning, they're better positioned to do just what these young people from Sonora will demonstrate on Thursday again, then I think we've hit a home run, Michael. And that's obviously what we want to do. Any questions about anything?
I think you'll keep us busy the next 2 days, it sounds like. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's busy days, and I know that you guys and ladies are all stretched, so any part of this you can be a part of. It's important that we're there if we can be, but we also understand you got businesses to run too, so.
You bet. Please, if you can be there and be a part of it, that's great. If I can help you with any of that, just let me know. Again, any questions, Kathy, about anything? Kevin?
No, I'm good.
Dan? Michelle? Randy? Okay. Let me just announce then, and I won't labor tonight. 7:30, 11. On the 28th of August, we will have, y'all, this is twice now. Mike, you remember this, probably twice in the last 6 months. We've had representation from the Arkansas General Assembly and our school district taking a look at what we're doing. We think on the 28th we'll have about 50 legislators in this building. And they want to know what's happening in the Springdale schools. They want to know what's happening in the region as well. They'll be very interested, I think, in partnerships between our school district and the community college and NTI and so on and so forth. So that should be a real learning experience. Senator English was here a few weeks ago. And Senator English provided enormous leadership at the legislative level in my mind, to try to bring funding together to kind of redefine, redirect, resurrect, if you will, career and technical education in the state, vocational education in the state. And so she was here. She wanted to know about the School of Innovation. She's very interested in that. So when you give Clay's elevator speech and you say, these kids are going to graduate from high school with a high school diploma and an associate's degree that's steeped in science, technology, engineering, and math, career experiences, people are very interested in that. And so I'm satisfied that will be a big part of that conversation. Y'all might want to look at that date. I'd love to have you here. Mike, I don't even have the time. Was it 10 to?
Well, at this point, it's the 10 o'clock. I know you had indicated it might change, but 10 o'clock on the 28th.
So 10 to 12, we'll be talking about, I think, programs of the district. We'll have lunch for them in the conference room upstairs, so there'll be a lot of opportunity for us to talk with state leaders about the future of education in our state and specifically what we're trying to bring forward. And then obviously other providers like our community college and NTI, et cetera, will want an audience with those people as well. So we're going to go out and tour the School of Innovation, and Pete, we may be able to come to the high school and see some CTE classes. But if you'll help me share this career and technical recognition that just came there for this already, that'd be a nice thing.
We'll be honored. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
I think you can come on up. Good work.
Y'all want to go on with your agenda, or you want to stretch? What would you like to do?
Give us about 4 minutes.
Okay.
4 minutes?
About
3.5.
2 and 40 seconds.
Go, Michelle. Okay, I realize that we may be short one board member, but no pun intended that we're short one board member.
I guess not.
High school Mr. Jinks, would you please take a seat? Thank you. The reflection was killing me. So, all right, take it away, Clay.
Members of the board, Dr. Rollins, good evening. I have a number of reports to share with you tonight. The first one is just a kind of an overview of our summer school programs, our summer program descriptions. I'm not going to read all of these to you. You can look through the list and see we have a lot of different summer school programs. Some schools do not have a formal summer school program. Those are noted here. A couple of things I think that are pretty interesting is the growth and the popularity in the mobile library system where they load the books into vehicles and take them to the neighborhoods where the students live.
Is this in, which report are you referring to?
Is it? I got really tickled, yes.
Okay,
It's in,
all right.
It's in
Hang
the
on
folder. It
just a
looks like
second.
this. I'm sorry.
Is that it? Okay. It's about the third item back.
It's got these boxes on it. I apologize for that. But you can look through these. Some here indicate that the summer school program is the function of a grant or is funded by a particular grant like 21st Century Learning or a Title I or whatever like that. But you can see that we do have a lot of summer school programs, and some of these programs, students come from other schools to them. So I feel like we have a lot of programs available to students throughout the district, and there's a good variety of those going on during the summer. So that's just kind of an update of all the programs that have been running through the summer. Certainly, you would say school doesn't really stop. We just go through these cycles. You've got this as well, this green box handout. This is four of the 5 strategic plans for the big audacious goals. We are missing a couple of pieces of data on national merit, and so Dr. Brown will be getting those pieces of data and finishing that up, and I will send that to you. But you see we have the literacy, mathematics, advanced placement, and the STEM plans. Dr. Brown has a presentation right after mine about the overall results from AP testing last year, so that'll be a really interesting report. I provide these documents to you as evidence that we are working toward the big audacious goals. There's a lot of our own language and acronyms and program names and things on here, and of course I would talk to you or explain any of those to you, but we have to get it to fit on one page. But I wanted to share with you again this year the depth with which we look at each of these big audacious goals and the programs and strategies that we put behind them and the evaluations as well to see if they are successful. So that is included as well.
I appreciate that. I really wish that Jeff was still here because I know he was he was the one that really brought this, I think, up years ago, way before your time. But, he really brought this up and I think challenged us as board members and as administrators to begin to really identify some things. Okay, these are stretch goals. These are big goals. Why not go for them?
They are big goals. In fact, they're really like visions. When you say we can see every third grader reading on grade level, that is just like you said. It is a big goal, and so we just work piece at a time to improve from where we are, and we try different strategies. And but anyway, the Division of Instruction, we focus on these big audacious goals. We talk about them every day. I mean, they are things that we certainly focus on, and we tend to that work. And I'll send this to Mr. Williams.
I think he took his packet of information, so he's probably got it. But,
so where it says, like, for example, district current reality on goal 1 of reading by third grade, what does that, as measured by the spring 2014 map, 41% third graders scored? What is that?
200 RIT. It's just a way to measure reading.
What does that mean?
200 RIT is the level for third grade. It's a national level for on grade level in the third grade at a national level. Okay, So we switched to MAP scores with the Big Audacious Goals because, as we talked about at our work session, our assessment is changing, and this was the last year of the benchmark, and so we couldn't continue to measure them.
So it was benchmark?
Excuse me?
It was benchmark?
I believe it had been benchmark in the past, but, you know, the percentage proficient and advanced on the benchmark, but we needed to change that for this year. So we did the MAP testing last year and took that baseline, and we'll look to increase that for next year. Does that answer your question?
I think.
I think if I understand you correctly, you're saying that because the assessment tool has changed, we've had to change what we're...
One of the ways we're measuring it.
Okay.
Right, and that kind of can be well explained with this, which is the next piece I have and the last piece of my presentation. I shared this with you at the work session, although except I've added a line to it. This very top line that says accountability terms. But if you look in that 13-14 column, the year that we have just finished, you'll see that the high stakes test was still ACTAP or benchmark, probably you know it as. But the standards we were teaching was all Common Core. And we talked about, you know, how we believe that that's not a very fair system. Well, this line I added to the top is to show you, again, the changes in the accountability terms. If you look under 10-11, that's when they used to say things like on alert, you know, year 3 school improvement, year 4 school improvement. I think y'all remember those terms. And then in 11-12, we changed to exemplary, achieving, needs improvement, focus, priority. And we had that in 12-13. Well, this year for 13-14, and they have not given us our labels yet for 13-14. But when they come out, we'll have 2 sets. It'll be exemplary, achieving, needs improvement, focus, priority, and each school will have a letter grade, A, B, C, D, F. I can't tell you anything more about that. We are waiting on the Department of Ed to, I think, determine which model they're going to use to give schools A, B, C, D, F. Those scores will come out in November. That's something that we need to be aware of and just understand the implications of. I went ahead and I tied it back to this sheet because I think it is very important to remember that in 13-14, which we'll be receiving a letter grade for, we taught the Common Core standards and had the old ACTAP test. The timing seems really unfortunate to start a new letter grading system. The last year that we used an assessment when we have brand new standards and curriculum, it's just not a good time. So I provided this updated to you as board members so that you can understand and speak about this and how it's pretty complex, how all of this comes together, and it's a difficult time. And you'll see here, because we're changing assessments, I also put that line in there for the interim assessments for MAP. Thankfully, we got all the students tested in MAP last year, so next year when we have a new high stakes test assessment, we can test them with MAP again and know that we've had growth or whatever, because they'll have a new high stakes test. So do y'all have questions about this?
Have you thought through, and Rick, this may be a question for you in terms of the communication, because I know how difficult it is just for me to understand it, and you keep telling me over and over again, and I keep trying to remember it. But, you know, just as you do begin to, as we communicate to the public, because they're going to be confused. I mean, they're going to see that the school's got a D. Well, you know, again, if there's a school that's like that, you know, you're talking about we've got assessments, what we taught being different, and so I just, y'all are probably having conversations and thinking about that of.
We are talking to Dr. Rollins a lot about how to communicate this. Springdale has done a great job with communicating the shift to Common Core standards the whole way. I don't know if y'all have, what you remember, but Springdale really had one of the better campaigns about educating parents and the community about what we may see.
The board was a big part of that.
Yeah, and so this is just a continuation of that. New standards, new assessment, and another accountability system. One thing that's really clear to me when I look at this is we're not going to have the same standards, assessment, or accountability system for very long. As you can see, things change pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so my view of this is we have to be knowledgeable about where we are, what is coming, but this school system has to get really good and be really good at this kind of change. because this type of change is not going to stop. So I think the new game is having systems that can adapt quickly, and we're able to quickly teach or train our teachers with on new standards and curriculum and assessments, because that's where we're going. And just
well, can we, some of the schools that took the Park assessment, can we utilize any of that to say, hey, look, this is what happened, this is how they learned from this, and they did
They
okay,
will
we
not,
can't show that at all?
Right, no, they will not share that data with us. They are using that, I don't know what all they do with it, some statistical
We don't know it
things.
at all?
No, we don't get, the field test, and we always knew that. We were not going to get those results back.
But Michelle's point is so critical. Mike was making the same, some similar comments this morning. The fact that we were part of the pilot and our kids were introduced to the new testing format, there are a lot of things to be learned from that, and a lot of it is just common experiences that these kids are deriving as a result of experiencing that test. You know, you won't build on any of that? I thought your story this morning was fascinating, really.
Well, it was just a story about a student that's got an electronic device that they're testing on, and they've kind of learned, here's how I take a test, how I prepare. I go back, I write notes, I highlight things, I underline things, and that's not necessarily what wasn't her experience when she actually sat down to take, when she was one of the sample people that got to take the test. I just thought it was an interesting observation.
It is an interesting observation. We have stories like that. 20, if you don't remember, 24 of our 29 schools were involved in the field test. Most of those had some type of electronic online component, although some were paper and pencil. And one of the most interesting things is it went really well. There were just no major technological problems. There were no security problems with the paper test. We were really prepared, to analyze the things that happened. It went really well. So, from that perspective, we think that we are well prepared. To your comment, though, the degree to which our kids are used to taking this, it's all new. By the time a student has gone now through the 8th grade, they have taken the benchmark or something very similar to it, for 6 years. I mean, they get this, right? They well understand it. So,
as I visited with Kathy in the last few days, she was very interested in this bandwidth conversation. Are we equipped? Are we ready?
We are.
Kathy, you want to ask that question and let him
Just like
respond?
that, I just wanted to make sure that we were prepared, that we had enough bandwidth for our schools and.
Well, what we have, the work that's been done this summer is we have upgraded our connection to the internet to a 5,000 megabit per second connection, which at your home you might have 10 or 15 or 6. And so we've increased it a lot. And then the connections from our central point out to the schools have all been upgraded this summer are they gig connections, 1,000?
The elementaries are all 1,000, and then the high schools are.
That's right. The elementaries have a 1,000 megabit per second connection. The secondary schools have a 10. And we have installed around 1,000 access points. Our goal, using Race to the Top funds, was to get a wireless access point in every classroom. Because if we're going to have one-to-one, there'll be 20 or 30 devices in there, and we've had a third-party vendor installing those. So that's what we've done this summer. We've increased the connection from 300 megabits per second to 5,000 for the total internet pipe. We've increased the connection between the central location of the technology and all of the schools. And then at the schools, we have increased the number of access points out in the classrooms. So that we've done the work at all 3 of those levels. So it's a lot of work.
In a worst case scenario, like at Springdale High School, if every kid at Springdale High School is taking a test, or they're on their computer doing something, surfing something, and then the teachers are on their computers, and then the coaches are on their computer, all that'll work at once now. I mean,
it should.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, we'll purchase more. Here's something interesting. The internet connection, and Eric, I want to do this history correct, but we had a 100 megabit per second connection 2 years ago.
2 years.
And right when I got here, we bought another 100. We bought another 100 last July when I got here. So then we had a 200 megabit per second connection. And sometime during the school year, we bought another 100 and got up to 300 megabits per second, and we ended the school year like that because 200 wasn't enough, and so we just needed more. That was about in April or so. So we finished the year last year with a 300 megabit per second connection. We are starting school this year with a 5,000, so we've increased it by many times. And then the distribution, out to the schools, and then in the schools to the wireless access points. So it's really exciting. I mean, it's amazing the work that we've been able to accomplish. And this was the vision that you all had set to put these devices out, and Race to the Top has supported every piece of that. So
this new internet pipeline we've got is Race to the Top money that we're using.
No.
It
E-rate for the connection to that. We pay for that we get an E-rate discount for that. But then all of the fiber out to the buildings, we also get an E-rate discount for that.
Go ahead and give some definition of that. Is that $300,000 or $400,000 a year that we're from the E-rate that we're reinvesting to build this backbone and so forth?
Yeah, it depends on what you do during the year, but in our district, it's easily $400,000 to $500,000 in E-rate discount back to the school district. Kelly's a 72% discount? 76. We receive a 76% discount on what we pay for the internet pipe and what we pay for leasing the fiber going out to all of the schools. So it's a huge discount on those pieces. Race to the Top outright purchased the wireless access points. Those things, you don't really notice them, and they're designed to blend in. Yeah. They cost a lot. And we buy Cisco. We buy good ones that work well, because we believe that's important. And they're not inexpensive.
So you're saying the connectivity and the ports and all, they're, for lack of better terms, equal at 40-year-old buildings and
absolutely
5-year-old buildings?
My plan was, when we counted, and then Eric took over with the third-party vendor, but there should be an access point in every classroom. In some cases, you'll find there may be 3 small special ed classrooms in a cluster, and they may share one. But anytime 30 kids can get together, there needs to be an access point. So,
even wall ports and all that stuff.
Wall ports probably are exactly the same as they were. They're just, wireless is really taking over so quickly. We put in some ports like in East Rooms. We have done some of those this year, but we didn't do any major projects where we.
Things that use, internet or network, local area network resources, primarily they will be on the wall. Yeah. All the Chromebooks are straight up web resources. Wireless is
Now talk to us about the park testing, because isn't that all supposed to be online?
It is. In the last, I would say, 6 weeks, there's been a lot of talk, change about park. There was the state of New Mexico actually posted an RFP for the park states that were still in the consortium. Arkansas was one of those. And so we were all going to, New Mexico was being the fiscal agent for the RFP and sorting through all of that. And there was an injunction filed and a judge issued a stay, and so there was a problem about some impropriety and, was this the right thing to do? And that was released, and so now we continue to go down the road through that RFP process. However, no state has yet signed a contract to use that exact assessment yet. We think they will. We have to have a new test next spring. We will have a test. We believe that it will be park. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, basically, yes.
So that's, I just know you probably heard a lot about it in the news, and it's on, it's off, we're having it, we're not, and so.
So is it a paper test like they've always done, or no?
It is supposed to be online. No, ma'am, it is supposed to be online. Yes,
okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
And where does the data go then? If it's all online, is it in the cloud?
The data goes back to the testing company, the actual company that makes the test. Just like our paper tests, when we mail them back in, we don't mail them to the Department of Education. We mail them back to the testing company for scoring. And so this data goes back to the testing company, like Pearson is a huge testing company. Should they produce our assessment for us, they would go back to Pearson and then come back to the school district and the Arkansas Department of Ed as it does now.
So it'll be graded much quicker, since it's online, correct? And we'll have our statistics much quicker.
It's supposed to be graded much quicker, certainly for the multiple choice pieces and those things.
So when will we know if Park is going to be accepted? Do you have a time frame for that?
I don't. Every day I just wait and see if we have, the Arkansas Department of Education is obligated to provide us with a high stakes exam. They will do that. They are trying now to provide us with the Park exam, and it's still in process. So it's nothing. We are not stressing out about that. We're not stressing our schools and principals out about that. We're focusing on teaching kids what we know they need to learn, and the assessment will come about. And when it gets here, we'll do the best that we can on it. There's nothing else to nothing else to do.
And we're ready, and we've got bandwidth, and we're ready to go.
That's right. We're ready to go.
Good.
Ready to go. Good question. Anything else? Thank you all. I know it took a lot of time. I appreciate your attention and your questions.
It was good. Some good discussion, good questions.
Thank you.
Dr. Coughlin has your grade.
I don't want my grade. I don't even want to know.
J.O. Kelly Jr.
Mr. Luttrell, board members, Dr. Rollins, you guys have to take it easy on the rookie, right?
No.
Not a chance. Okay,
right.
thanks. No. Well, I want to share some advanced placement data. Of course, that's one of our big audacious goals. And I looked at the 5-year trajectory, and as is in the past, we continued to move up in AP, and I'm glad to share some of those successes tonight. We did increase the number of exams given this past spring from 2,307 exams to 2,440 exams. And I shared with you in your board packet some of the data. What I'm trying to do is highlight some of the information from the AP Test Administration. We also increased the number of AP scholars who scored 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams from 103 to 133. That's exciting. We increased the AP scholars with honors, scoring an average of 3.25 on all AP exams from 19 to 30. And just for your information, a student can score up to 5 on an exam, so that's where these numbers are coming from, 3.25 or higher. So we also increased the AP scholars with distinction. And students who are, a student who is an AP scholar with distinction scores an average of 3.5 on all AP exam. And we had 29 students in that category, AP scholars with distinction. 2 special recognitions that I want to acknowledge include, we had 5 national AP scholars. We had 3 last year in 2013. We had 5 this year, and that's really exciting. An AP scholar, national scholar, those individuals scored an average of at least 4 on all AP exams, and that's really phenomenal. And we had 5 national AP scholars. And then lastly, as far as a special recognition, we had 5 AP courses this past spring scoring above the national average. Not only beating the state of Arkansas, but scoring above the national average. And we, if you want to know how that happened, we had a huge collaborative effort on the part of all of our AP teachers looking at AP strategies for success. We had teachers who were sharing best practices. As a matter of fact, just last week, Mr. Stewart facilitated a session and 24 of the 43 AP teachers attended and talked about strategies for success. So we anticipate that in this year to come and going forward, we will continue to see the kind of success that we have seen in this past test administration. Questions?
Going the right direction, it sounds like. We're going the right direction, it sounds like.
We are.
Well, and I think these things, as you're growing them, are certainly something that, the business community can use when they start trying to recruit families to come to Springdale. here's what we're doing, here's how we're growing, here's how we're getting better. So the more of that we can put in front of Dr. Rollins, I think would be terrific, because those are what those families are. They're looking for athletics, they're looking for arts, they're looking for high achieving schools where they're going to push kids to do good work. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jared?
Good evening. Got a few items for you, excuse me, tonight. First item in my house here is the projected enrollment. This year, you know that we've increased our numbers in pre-K to, I believe it's 980, is that right, Dr. Rollins, as far as slots? And from what I understand from Ms. Fleeman, all of those spots are filled at this particular moment. I think we continue to have a waiting list, Dr. Rollins, so the need continues to be out there. For our K-12 numbers, I provided you a handout. I need you to know that those numbers are a little bit soft. We've converted over to the old legacy system to the new eSchool system, an ABSCAN, and so the registrars are having some difficulty getting everything in. However, we printed those out and pulled those today right before the board meeting, so I would have as up-to-date as possible numbers. Not going to get too hung up on the numbers. I think right now kindergarten's a little bit low. Maybe a few of them across the district, Dr. Rollins' board, that are going to continue to rise. But as you can see, our K-12 numbers are 20,623 as of about 4 o'clock today. From last year, I always like to compare. Last year we had about 800, well, we did have 840 pre-K, 20,530 at this time, K-12, so we're up showing at 233 kids. Again, I think that's pretty soft. We've seen some larger numbers, and I think we will this year too, Dr. Rollins. Again, registrars are continuing to register students daily. In regard to staffing, I think we've had a fairly typical year of turnover. We've added 149 new to the district employees. Last year we had 190. Of course, we opened a school at Lakeside, but it's fairly typical. We have 1,556 certified employees to date. 43 of those are new positions, and I don't want that to give you a heart attack because we didn't open a new school other than the iSchool, but we do have many of those positions as federal funded or categorical funds. For example, 16 of them are Race to the Top. 6 are pre-K, the CARE Foundation or NSLA. 1 special ed TOSA paid for out of catastrophic funds, and we've increased that. I think Dr. Rollins provided you that information. We went from about $400,000 to $1.4 million, so it was a really good increase. We have 2 psychology specialists that we've hired from federal funding. Last year, we contracted that out to a company, so it cost a lot more because we couldn't find any psychology specialists. This year, we've really done a good job to encourage them to come our way. So it will be a reduced rate. So it's actually a cost savings, even though they look like 2 new employees, because they are. We have 3.5 instructional facilitators, paid that for out of federal or NSLA. So 8.5 total new positions for the iSchool, because we took some teachers from the middle school and junior high level, pulled them over, and we had to replace those. So total, we have, it's going to sound kind of funny, but 6 growth positions. I believe 1 at Shaw Elementary, 1 at Sonora, a couple of at Sonora Middle, and 2 at Hellstrom for growth. So we've done a really good job. Dr. Rollins has provided me some really good instruction in regard to staffing, and I've tried to adhere to that, Dr. Rollins. So we've done a good job, and I'll have to really brag on the principals. Our principals do a great job staffing their schools, all of them, pre-K through 12. Excellent, excellent job. They understand efficiency and they understand quality. The folks they've been sending me to interview have been phenomenal. I've bragged to Dr. Rollins every day about the quality that we bring for our kids here. And so publicly, I'd like to say thank you to the principals for the work they do. Our classified positions were at 1,023. I think we ended the year with right at 1,000 classified staff members, but we had dropped several, and we just didn't refill them there at the end of the year with those tutors and all. So we're back up, fully staffed. with our classified staff. Do you have any questions in regard to numbers or staffing?
Based on the work that you've done with Gary and others, Mike asked me this morning, what are we believing our growth will be when everything settles out? And I told him I thought we'd see a growth year much like last year with 400 or 500 new kids to the district. What's your thinking about that? Or does that appear to be on target, or?
Actually, Mr. Hendricks and I were talking about it just moments ago, and he believes there may be about 200 out there that are coming into us that we just don't have in the system. That doesn't account for any that may come in September, Dr. Ron. So I think you're right.
400 to 500 new.
Yes, sir. We know that we're going to have the addition for the pre-K, and I think you're
Yes.
counting those.
Yes.
It's quality growth. Quality growth. And we're prepared. Okay. Okay. Number 3, in my view, is the student handbook. As you know, we have a Department of Education monitoring coming our way in October. The handbook is real similar to what you've approved in the past, but we need the minutes to reflect that we've approved the district handbook. I think you've had that since Sunday or so. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to go over that, but it's relatively real similar to what it has been in the past. All we've done is really make sure we've gone through the handbook with the standards review and make sure that we've met the new Arkansas laws that have been passed.
How much of the student handbook would you say is to be in compliance with State Department of Ed or federal regulations? I mean, if you were to say a percentage, is it 100%? Is it 90? Is it...
Can I be totally wrong?
You can
Okay.
be. I mean, I'm just kind of curious as I read titles. Some of them you can clearly see, okay, well, that's a, Office of Civil Rights. Okay, I know that's a federal issue, but.
Mr. Luther, I'd say the vast majority of our handbook, our district handbook, goes back and is tied to some law or some rule by the Department of Ed.
Okay.
And there are some just general, hey, parents need to know this is the way we operate, this is the way our school board policies operate, and the handbook's tied to those policies and those laws. There's not any fluff. There's a whole lot to it, but there's no fluff, Dr. Rollins. It's pretty strict and pretty.
And the idea is that we send that home, and parents peruse it, they sign that they've gotten a copy of it, so they're a partner in the process.
And the law allows for digital copies, so we have it on our internet. Anybody can go to it, and it's there, and they can sign a form saying that they received theirs digitally as well.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
So which is really good. Sure.
As far as translation?
Yes, Mr. Hendricks, I believe, has sent. Spanish and Marshall? Yes. We provide those.
Wow, Marshall.
Okay. And I believe, and I really need to thank Mr. Hendricks and Dr. Watansky. They really did a good job in going through the handbook to help me. I have quite a bit to do, but they do too, and their expertise in formatting and everything was just excellent, and so I'd like to thank them. My final...
Do you need board action on that?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Before we do that, right, Board, I know that we've had this for several days, and I know there's a lot of information in here, but, certainly most of it is obviously to be in compliance with certain rules that are handed to us. So if somebody is ready, I will accept a motion to approve the student handbook.
I move that we approve the student handbook as presented.
Motion by Ms. McFettridge.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dotson. Are there any other questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There is none, so motion carries.
Thank you so much.
All right.
My fourth and final topic is to talk a little bit about the AAEA Summer Conference. I have a couple of the agendas I'll just give to you if you'd like to look at them at your own means. I tried to find some more. Those are all I could snag when I was there. I'd like to point out that Mr. Kelly Hayes provided Tier 1 training for the state there and did an excellent job. He fought through an air conditioner that didn't work and some technology that didn't work, and he kept the crowd happy, and he used me as a butt of a joke, which I'll get him back for at some point. But he did a nice job anyway.
He didn't tell a lot of jokes, did he?
He didn't tell a lot of jokes, did he?
It was constant.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, man, I was about to break out the song. It was terrible.
He did a nice job.
Were there other members of our Springdale team that also presented at this? I thought I saw several names I recognized.
Joe Rollins did a nice job. I think he had 2 opportunities to present on the iSchool.
Okay.
And talk about some of our workforce readiness and what we're doing. It was well attended. I talked to him. I think Dr. Bertonsky was in there for a little bit, and Springdale was really represented well. One of the funniest things that happened is when our principal at Elmdale was called on the stage in front of the entire body to talk about her Harley Davidson and how and what she did with it. It was one of the major speakers. I believe it was Dr. Mark Scherenbach. Did I say that right? Okay. Just an excellent speaker, a Grammy Award-winning keynote. Did a great job. We also heard from Dr. Jim Draper. He was a former middle school principal, and he's done an excellent job, lives in Washington, D.C. now, and they provided a lot of good insight on where we're headed nationally in regard to what education is perceived to be and what it truly is and what the expectations are. So I was...
Can you give us a 30-second wrap on what his projections or his view of the future was?
On Mr. Draper? Education is hard. It's getting more and more difficult. We have this outside perspective where some folks believe they understand how to do it better than us, no matter what we do. And that's just the world we're going to live in. And so we need to buckle down and focus on kids. And that's what I think we can do. It's kind of like Dr. Rollins talks about character and trust. I love basketball, and he does too. And as long as you're consistent and you shoot well, people are going to be able to identify that you're a good shooter, kind of like you have good character. And your consistency over time is what helps folks relate to you and trust you. So we just need to do our work. And I think that's why Springdale has such a good reputation, as Dr. Rollins says, not only in Arkansas but nationally, is because we're consistent and we focus on kids. The decisions that we make, when they all relate back to children, it makes you feel better at night, and it makes you rest well, and it also helps you to make the proper decisions when they're really, really hard to make. So, anyway, he just instilled in us that we're doing okay. Okay, some of the topics. There's a new dyslexia law that we're going to have, that's been implemented, and we're going to need to adjust some of our work to that. I think the special ed department is doing a good job in trying to evaluate how that's going to impact us. Health insurance obviously was talked about, the new teacher licensure rules. An interesting topic that I went to, I listened to both Asa Hutchinson and Congressman Pryor. They didn't debate, they just talked about educational issues. And quite honestly, it was important to be there. I got to visit with both of them. I visited with Mr. Hutchinson downstairs for about 30 minutes prior to his talk, and I visited with Congressman Ross after the conversation he had with the entire body for about 20 minutes. So they know Springdale. They both like Springdale, and I invited both of them to come into our district and speak with Dr. Rollins at any time, and to even tour the iSchool. And so they were excited to do that, and said when they could be here they would. So anyway, I wanted you to know that I did offer that invitation to both of them. The final thing I'd like to report to you about is the very gracious hospitality that Buster Beardsley provided to our team in the nightly meal. It was just very, very nice. Got an opportunity to visit, socialize a little bit, and talk about the year ahead. And our administrators had a good time. It was a good time by all of us. Mr. Beardsley was such a great host, along with Scott, his son. So it's a shame that you are all not able to be there. It is a very special time for all of us to be together and just share. And it was difficult because our leader wasn't able to go. But I stood in, I filled in. Not sure how well I did, but he's got big shoes to fill. But overall, it was an enjoyable evening, and we're appreciative. Have any questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question about the enrollment, and I think I always ask this. The pre-K is not counted in your total enrollment.
It's not counted for state foundation.
But you staff, when you look at staffing for the district, their numbers are in there.
Yes, sir.
Staffing wise, so if you're looking at teacher-student ratio or total number of positions that you have per total number of students, it is a bit misguided because you don't count that 1,000 that's in pre-K.
But I do count the staff
The
that I
staff's in
hired.
there, right, but
Yeah, when I did that calculation today, last year I think we were at 13.7, 13.1 members or students per certified person, and today we're at 13.2. So our efficiency's increased just a little bit. Y'all may want to check my math.
13.2.
I'm sorry?
It's 13.2.
Okay. I'm glad I was right. But we've done a good job staffing. We've become a little bit more efficient. The thing about the pre-K, you have to staff every classroom with a teacher and an aide. So that increases the number of classified staff you have for every class. And we're not allowed to do that at all of the levels at K-12. Anyway, thanks for allowing me to speak to you. I'm glad my math was the same as yours.
Wow.
That's good. Y'all have a good night.
Mike and members of the board, Dr. Rollins, my report, if you have it up in front of you, I thought as we transition from one year to the next, I thought you just might be interested in some of the data that's out there in the areas that I work with. I've given you just some end-of-year numbers from 2013 and 14 as they relate to, say, food services. It's just pretty staggering when you think about 5 million meals being served during the course of a year in breakfast and lunch. 18,000 meals served this summer for needy families and kids in our district. The fact that we're at about 68% free and reduced lunch kids that qualify, and the millions of dollars that generates for the district in revenue. We've got new laws in the USDA that have to be adhered to. They're going to force some dietary changes on our kids, and those are all good things. So I just thought you might be interested in that. Transportation, just again, some end of year, 140 drivers, 400 routes every day. This past year we did about 1,900 trips. That amounts to all the athletic and co-curricular. That's not only football and athletics, it's drama, debate, forensics, all of those trips that we take everywhere. We had a few fender benders here and there, but no serious accidents, no injuries. You can see we traveled about 3 million miles this past year on buses. That's really a credit to that department. In maintenance, we're averaging about 700 work orders a month. That's just a monumental task. We kind of have an opportunity. Our nighttime supervisor, we've got about 100 plus employees who work evening shift, second shift up till midnight, making sure we're clean and secure. We need to rethink how we supervise our campuses at night, and we're kind of working on a little bit of a different model, working with Dr. Rollins and Dr. Cleveland to try and come up with a better model. We're kind of rethinking that. There's been a lot of work done at HAR-BER, not only on the football stadium, we've redone the gymnasium and put in some new volleyball sleeves, a whole bunch of other things. We had unfortunate accident back at the greenhouse. You remember the windstorm that went through here about 3 weeks ago? It was pretty brutal. Those of you that happened to be out and saw it, I was on my way back from HAR-BER, looked up to the north, and I really couldn't believe what I saw. It looked like a dust storm coming our way. Well, it picked up a carport and shot it through the greenhouse on the backside of HAR-BER. I mean, we weren't ready for that. We had to get the carport out of there and move it and then repair that greenhouse. So there's unanticipated consequences for everything that we do. Our pre-K got torn up a little bit on the roof. Some of the issues that happened with that windstorm, a lot of the damage that occurred in the district, we couldn't see. You need to remember, many of our administrators are not on board then. Our kids are not in classes then. So, and some of that stuff was up so high we couldn't see it. So we had to get crews up on the roofs and get lifts up and check out all kinds of areas in the district, all because of that one storm. Our guys have really worked very hard on pre-K. The numbers we're very proud of, and Darlene and Dr. Rollins and Jared should be proud of the effort of bringing pre-K in. It does force us, though, to do some rearranging in classrooms. This is the first time we're going to have pre-K, 3 sections over at George Junior High. We've got 5 sections of pre-K over at J.O. Kelly. So we are pushing pre-K out, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We need to find a better answer for that in the future. I've talked to you before about our gym floor work. You can see that everywhere. Both of the main gyms at HAR-BER and Springdale High have been redone. We're real proud of the work we did over at the auxiliary gym. If you ever get a chance to go in that cute little old gymnasium, we redid the floor and it really looks good. Redid George Junior High as well. Done front entryway logos, the maintenance department. A lot of work at Tyson with electrical. Southwest Junior High, real proud of the work that Shannon has asked us to do. Shannon Tischer, she wanted some things done differently, and so we did a whole bunch of stuff. If you've driven by Central Junior High, it looks a lot better out in front with the landscaping. We still have work to do there on the tennis court. We've been over at the iSchool just about every day. That's difficult when you have to work through another person like me, Mike Gilbert, over at the Jones Center. We don't own that place, so we can't just go in and do what we want to do. We have to work through them and make sure it's what he wants done and done the right way and so on. So it's interesting, but we're getting it done. And then more work at the ALE. We're excited to work with our new principal there, and that's all good stuff. We're just great. I'm very lucky in my job when you're surrounded by people like Carol Godfrey and Junior Copeland and Dana and Kathy Launder. It's just an honor for me to be part of that. I thought I'd lay out some challenges. That's last year. If you focus on going forward, we've got to find some issues on pre-K. It's every anticipation in this district that we will get more funding and have more pre-K kids to serve. We want to do that. In order to do that, we've got to find some good space in the district. We're working hard on that. Dr. Rollins and I talk every day about our options, and there are some that are out there. We are on go for a new K through 5 that would open in the fall of 2016. We are good for enrollment this year, 14-15. We're looking at the fall of 16-17. That building, we need to find the right location for that. Our new feeder pattern works very well. We like what we've done. There are a couple schools that are a bit on the big side that we need to work on. You probably know that Turnbow is a little bit too big. We took some pre-K sections out of Turnbow this year to downsize it a little bit. The two that come to my mind the most at the elementary level, one would be Turnbow, the other one would be Monitor. We really need to try to address that with our zoning once we get that new school, and we're already thinking about that. We've got to find a home for the iSchool. We're at more than 200. You heard Mr. Rollins talk about that. I think 220 or so is our number. If we add another 220, that's 440 the following year and so on. We'll need to address that issue quickly. I'm concerned about the growth and where it occurs. You heard Dr. Rollins talk about maybe 300 or 400 or more new kids, and where that growth occurs is important to us, east and west and center, and we need to be ready to address that when it comes our way. That's a big problem for us. School space, and Dr. Rollins and I have talked, and I mentioned it to the instructional team. It may be time for us to start to rethink space inside of our schools, in particular media space, library media space. That's an issue all over the country. Maybe you don't need to have 20,000 books in a library anymore. Maybe you don't need reading nooks for kids. Maybe that has changed and that model could be rethought. Jack will tell you a lot, Jack C. will tell you a lot about the need for us to maybe think about open, unstructured space where we can restructure that every day with our furniture and our utilization of different structures. It may be something that we want to think about. Our nurses will tell you just another issue is medication and dealing with medication inside the schools. You all know we've turned into kind of a medicated society. Well, our kids are no different. When you look at how the nurses handle the dispensation of medications in schools, it is really, really a difficult task. And so we have that as a challenge moving forward with kids and with parents. And really a very positive thing, I've mentioned it to you before, I think you're in the midst of a little bit of a renaissance here in Springdale. We are an important part of that. We're such a vital part of this community. I would argue that certainly we may be the shining star in the community. The civic nature, everything that you hear and you see going on around this community is all very positive. The arrow is pointed in the right direction. The opening up of the West, new businesses coming in, a revitalization of downtown. There's some really good conversation going on. Just proud to be part of that, and we're going to be a central piece of that. So you'll be vital in all of that as well. I compliment you for all your work. Dr. Rollins asked that I address three things in particular, and this comes on an addendum. I hope you have that as part. Do you? Yes. This wasn't part of our original package. The HAR-BER football stadium, we are very much in a belief that we're going to have that thing done. We are as optimistic as we can be. I mentioned to you, everything is moving along. The north building that you've heard about, the changing area for our visiting teams, girls' locker room, and so on in the future, in all likelihood, that will not be done. That is not going to make the opening day. But we have a plan to take our visitors from Conway and have that happen over at Hellstern to change there. They'll be well supervised. We're not going to leave the visiting team unsupervised at Hellstern. That facility, we're going to try to get it done. In all likelihood, it may not be done. I wanted you to know that. But the rest of the structure is coming along really well. We think that's going to be good. The Smith Media Center, we met again today for another hour on that. Just a note, I made an error in my data that's there, just to be clear. Dr. Rollins and I, along with Jack C. and others, we had anticipated that bid to come in somewhere in the neighborhood of about 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 million. That didn't happen. It came in much closer to 2.3 million. And when we reviewed it, and Dr. Rollins has, I think, presented it very clearly to you, we had some issues with perhaps the disparity in some of the bids and the lack of some bids in some areas and so on. I do think that the people from Flintco worked very hard to get active bidding. They put it out there to more than 500 different contractors. We got a pretty good bid response. And maybe it's just that market. Maybe we have to fight our way through that. But we are looking at ways to lower that and bring it back into the area that we're real comfortable with. And again, we met for an hour today just before this meeting with Brent Farmer from Flintco, trying to look at ways we can reduce that budget to get that project done. So we're hopeful for the Smith Media Center. Lastly, and we are done with this, the school-based health clinic at George is done. It's turned over to us. Mary Miller and I met on last Friday with the staff from the community clinic. We will put a physician's assistant in there. It's getting furniture in it today. We're going to be ready to go, and we're real excited about that. The one over the school-based health clinic that we have over at Jones, as you know, serves about 1,500 people from the community every year, as well as taking care of all of our kids, their vaccinations, and so on. And that may be one of the reasons why, when you look at Jones, it's such an outstanding school. It's just beautiful the way that Melissa and that building work, and maybe this is a little bit of it. We're hopeful at George Elementary it'll be just as good. So that facility is done. It's really, really cool the way that it turned out. A local contractor did that too, a guy named Wes Taylor, graduate from Springdale High School. So we're really proud of that little building. So that's all I've got. Mike?
Dr. Compton?
Yes, sir.
When you talk about the percentage of kids that we have on free and reduced lunch,
yes.
you talk like it's a revenue stream. That it is generate millions of dollars in revenue, source of revenue, rather than a problem that our kids suffer from.
Oh, Danny, I didn't mean to present it that way. Clearly, families, I'm sorry if you took it that way.
It nearly sounds like, oh, we grow those number of kids, well, the district makes more money.
No, that wasn't my intent at all. My purpose here was just to demonstrate just how big this operation is, and that's what I meant. Families that come from poverty, we need to help them in every way that we can. And clearly, these are kids and families in need. We're very proud of the service that we provide to kids who qualify for free and reduced lunch. Don't misunderstand my words at all. I didn't mean it as a revenue source. It's just one of those issues that I thought to present the size of it to you. That's all I meant. I'm sorry for that confusion. Didn't mean to do that.
And didn't you say it goes up a notch if we get to 70%?
Oh boy, does it ever. Kelly and I struggle with this every year. We're just under that 70% threshold. Kelly may correct me on the exact number, but we receive money for reimbursement for those that we serve. Once you get to a 70% level, that number goes up dramatically in each of the next 3 years. And it's very significant, Randy. It can go to $6 to $10 to $12 million over a 3-year period once you get to that threshold. We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Yeah, Mr. Dodson, I have to take part of the responsibility for that. The way the system is geared, you can be in the high 60s and it doesn't make any difference. But if you get to 71, you get double the funds that we can use to help support these poor children.
Yeah.
And so the state has looked at making it more like a gradual thing. But at this point, we're concerned that the 70% is out there. We're just not going to do a good enough job of identifying these students. And if we can get it up there to 70, and we could double our funds and have that much money for our children.
And the reason I mentioned that.
But I appreciate that perspective.
And the reason I mentioned it is that there are people in our nation politically now that think there's too much of that. So if we present it as, ooh, that's a revenue stream, a few of them might take that wrong. Sure. And I'll read.
That's a good point.
Understood.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, if I could, I'd like to take just a moment and kind of come alongside Gary's comments. You did a wonderful job presenting that overview of our work with facilities. And if I'm sitting where you are, it would be real easy to confuse some of these issues that clearly do affect the bottom line. We had what we thought was a pretty good plan for the Smith Media Center, and I've kind of given you a chronology of cost of various media centers over the last decade, really. And you can see the impact of inflation and how the timeline makes a difference in terms of cost. But this one kind of surprised us, and you heard Gary's comments in terms of market conditions are really coming to bear here, and as we've discussed this one with the other and explored it across the community, obviously this doesn't just impact school projects, it's real in terms of the construction industry and the cost of doing the work out there today. Looks quite a bit different. In our conversations today, we were re-examining how we might get this media center at Smith within the proposed budget. And Gary's exactly right. We had thought we could do that for about $1.7 million. So obviously there was a lot of float, a lot of fluctuation in that. My challenge to our construction manager and our architect was to look at this project from the standpoint of what we could do to get it back within the $2 million range that we had discussed. So they looked at a number of different opportunities to do that. If you'll recall, one of the reasons that we looked at a larger version for this school was to understand that we weren't going to build a new school and open it until 2016, so how to get there. And so we built in consideration for additional classrooms that might help us with that. But when we began to look at the cost of these classrooms, Mike, that did not seem to be a real prudent decision. So we're going to look at every aspect of the bid and are in the process of doing that. Had a good meeting today. I sent the group back out to try some other things. We can get the project based on conversations today below $2 million. But to get it below $2 million, we're doing the subtracting. Nobody else is in that process with us, and that's not comfortable. So we're going to continue to work on that. We can build a media center like we're accustomed to seeing at Jones and Westwood and so on and so forth within the range of the monies that we had. But when you start downsizing and then begin to look at cost per square foot with that downsized model, that is a challenge as well. So we're just working through that. Now I'm going to turn the page. We're trying to do what's right, make good decisions every time, but there are many decisions that need to be made. We need to finalize our plans at this point in time, as Gary referenced, in terms of where the 2016 school is going to go. Our architect's got to be designing that space now to sit the site specific is what I'm trying to say. Site specific. Okay. For 3 or 4 years, I've been working with various realtors in terms of where we might best locate the next elementary school. All of our indications to date tell us that it needs to be on the east again. We have sites behind J.O. Kelly. We have sites near Biari. neither of those are ideal because of proximity. Even the site that has risen to the top is still very close to other schools in the area, but much better than either of those sites that I've just discussed. I'm not asking the board for a decision this evening. You have given me the authority to locate sites and purchase property and bring locations forward, but as always, I want to talk with you about that. What Michelle just distributed are two documents. A piece of property that I think most of you are very familiar with, located at the intersection of Don Tyson Parkway and George Anderson Road as it runs south from Don Tyson. The wonderful thing about that site is that we don't have to bring water and sewer and electrical and so on and so forth to that site, which carries enormous expense with it. And we've had that experience. We've lived through it. I'm very pleased at the outcome. But when you get outside of the infrastructure belt in the district, there's significant costs associated with any additional site. So one could go to the north and east, but there's little or no infrastructure there to deal with sewer and water and electrical and so on and so forth for a facility the size of a school. That brings me back to this site. The owner of the site has reduced his price during our negotiation from 30,000 acre to 25,000 acre, and again, a site that's located well with good access, good visibility, etc. It is my interest in acquiring this 24 or so acres of property to locate the 2016 school on. I would welcome your input on that. Mike, if the board wanted to take action, this is not a new proposal at all. You've looked at it, you've seen it, we've driven by it many, many times. I just feel that's the best option that's available for us today. And it is my intent to proceed with that unless the board would have me do something different. That would allow us to save the site behind Kelly, save the site at Biari for specialty schools, such as consideration for a site for a future school of innovation if we were to build from scratch, or to build a pre-K center if we were to build, again, from the ground up on those two sites.
Is it on the east or west side of George Anderson Road?
It would be on the west side.
On the west side.
Okay. Let's just proceed east till we strike that intersection.
Right there.
If you turn south, it would be that parcel lying immediately to the south and
the
west.
Corner?
Yes.
The corner.
And there's a diagram just depicting that property. Now, I would tell you that I've had some angst about that property over the years because of drainage on the property. So we continue to try to work and clarify that issue, and perhaps it's marginal, but we will need to continue to clarify that. But that's kind of the only remaining cost. We may well have to do a collection pond, et cetera, like we've done at other schools. But I think our architect has moved to the point where he believes that's a very good site, and I think Dr. Compton's come along there. We've looked at that very, very closely, discussed it many times, but it sure appears to me, Mike, that would be an excellent location for our 2016 school. Any direction the board wants to give me, Mr. Luker?
You know, in the past on things like this, as far as formal action from the board, is that something it's required? Is it desired?
I don't think it's required at all, because you've officially authorized me to do the work and make the decision on that. But if you're comfortable with it, obviously that would give me a certain comfort. And again, we don't have to do that tonight. We can study it more, and we can look at it in the future. But we do need to begin to move that forward in a very timely way.
I think what I might suggest, if the board was comfortable with it, is to give you some feedback on this over the next few days and weeks. And if we need to take some formal action next month, then maybe we can do that. Or if you have enough good conversations with each one of us that agree this is the direction to go, then just go do it. Is that still allows you to meet timelines?
That would be great.
I mean, if that's... I'm certainly not opposed if there's a board member that wants to make a motion and we vote on it, but...
Well, it is a beautiful site, and the curb appeal and the access and so forth is very strong. And
Will it be in the same model as our last several elementary schools, as far as the general look?
That is our plan at this point. We have developed, as you know, a long-term plan. We've submitted to the state. The state's given us a go-ahead in terms of this school. It will always be a last-minute decision in terms of how much money they're actually going to put in it. Only the legislature can make that decision, but they have given us their endorsement for the 2016 school.
That's part of our partnership project program that has already been approved. We just don't know the amount of money. I also mentioned too, Mike, that I mentioned one of the schools. One of the schools we've got some issues with is Turnbull Elementary. This location will help that dramatically.
Yes, sure. It's really a good point, Gary.
You good with that? Okay. All right.
And board, I just want to make sure y'all were thinking along with Kathy. Comment.
Randy?
No, I think it's,
I'm good.
you know,
Talk to him.
I think it's a great piece of property.
I do too.
I think you've
It
shown
is.
it to a lot of us. We've seen it. I'd say go forward. You know, we know you're going to study it and make the best decisions, so I'm certainly on board.
That looks great. I haven't seen it, but I was pulling it up on the map, and I mean, it's a great location, so.
We'll be happy to take y'all out there. Randy.
2 thumbs up. I know exactly what you're talking about. You bet.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me tag on.
It's at my neck of the woods.
Okay. Kelly?
Pursue it. If you've got a problem, we can let it know.
Board, I have 3 items for you this evening. First is the building fund, building projects update. You'll see the same 2 projects that I presented to you on several of the last, probably 6 months to a year. The HAR-BER indoor facility / tennis project has been completed. So this will be the final report you will see for it. It's been turned over to us, all completed. The HAR-BER Stadium, you can see that we are progressing along with that, making payouts each month, and they are making great progress on that, as you well know.
The one thing that I would say that I've heard a time or two, I think the public has a great interest in the ability for the tennis courts to be available. So I don't know if that's still something they're working through and figuring out the protocols on that, but I know that's something that folks have expressed interest in. So just, I know that's not in your area, but I just want to make sure that that's...
The work is complete.
Okay.
And our athletic director has been given that encouragement, just as you said. So
thank you.
Maybe we're still putting the procedures in place. Our community is welcome to use those courts when our kids aren't there.
That's great. They'll love it. I know they will.
Any other questions on that? I would just like to call your attention to the notice of election that I've included in your packet this month. As you know, the election will be held on Tuesday, September 16th. There is not a millage request, a change request on the millage. However, all patrons across the district are eligible to vote for the millage. The race that is, the board race that is up is Zone 3. And so there will be 2 polling sites open in addition to early voting. And as I stated to you last month, we have to have a polling site per county. So there's one in Benton County, and then there's one in Washington County. And you have that information as well in your packet. Any questions on the election? And obviously, a voter must be registered in Zone 3 in order to cast a vote in the school board election for the board of director. Anyone can vote for the millage, but only Zone 3 people can vote for the school board director. Questions? The final item I have for you this evening is the July board report, our financial report. I am in the throes of pulling together the budget for your to present to you next month. So that's why there's not numbers listed on the budgeted revenue side or the budgeted expenditure side, but I did include last year's numbers so you could get some sort of comparison. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I've got a question regarding assessments. So when you have new construction, so let's take a new Walmart location that's under construction, at what point does the school district begin to see the benefit of that completed project? Does it get assessed this year and then the property tax is collected next year? Straighten me out on that.
Okay. Well, properties, like right now, we are collecting on the 2013 assessment.
Okay, all right.
Okay. The 2014 assessments, the first collections on those will be late spring because the bills will go out in March.
Okay.
So it depends on when a project is finished as to when it goes on the books.
So if it's finished and open, let's say it opens tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning.
Maybe.
Does that go on the assessment for 2014? Or is there a date during the calendar year here that's critical? I may be splitting hairs.
I'm not aware of a date that.
Okay.
I mean,
so if it's done by the 31st of December, no. October.
I don't believe there is a particular date. The assessor is constantly looking and valuing property as it's completed. Now, somebody straighten me out if I'm telling this wrong. Former superintendent, you know that?
May 30th, you have to assess by May 31st.
Well, yeah, you have to assess by May 31st, but that's for, that's for the next year.
Okay. So it would.
I'll tell you what, instead of me stumbling around here, let me get an answer.
And I'm sorry to throw you that way, but I'm just thinking, again, back to Gary's points of a renaissance in Springdale, and you see some significant commercial developments that are happening there at Elm Springs Road. You're going to have a Sam's in 2016 on 412.
I can tell you this, they have given us, they've sent the school districts a preliminary 2014 assessed valuation. And so that's what they have right now, and they'll be taking that to the equalization board for final determination. If anyone, wants to challenge the assessed value that was assigned to their property, they can go before the equalization board. Then those are finalized in late 2014, and then the collections will start in 15. But I'll ask specifically your question.
I just think it's fun to have that conversation. Because it's been a while, with your work that you've done in terms of preparing us for assessments and property tax collection.
Where is Chick-fil-A? And the Starbucks.
Any other questions that I can not answer? Dance around?
So who's greeting Kelly today?
Yeah. Okay. Well, if there's not any other questions for Kelly, I would accept a motion to accept the financial report.
So moved.
A motion by Ms. McFettridge.
Second.
I have a tie for second. I'll go with Mr. Owenby. Sorry. So, all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There is none, so the motion carries.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that, I believe our meeting is adjourned. We don't have our SEA representative. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for staying till the bitter end. Good job.